Hey there everybody, welcome back to Fabricated, the quilting inspired show for the non-quilter. In this episode, I'm going to show you how to do some bleach painting. Let's get started. The materials for this are really straightforward. You're going to need a piece of fabric that is unwashed. It can be yardage like this, it can be a t-shirt, a pair of jeans, pretty much whatever, as long as it has never gone through the washing machine. You're going to need an image, which you can just print off your computer, an X-Acto knife or utility razor blade, some duct tape, and a cutting mat. The first step in this process is you're going to take your duct tape and you're going to lay it out and make a sheet of it. I'm using this piece of plastic right here as my cutting surface, just so I don't run my knife all over the nice cutting mat. Here. I'm going to peel off a strip that's at least as wide as my image, or a little wider than my image, and stick it down to my cutting surface. There we go. Then I'm just going to do the same thing and overlap the layers a little bit, maybe a quarter of an inch, or 3/8 to a quarter of an inch or so. Once I've got a nice sheet of duct tape made, I'm going to take my image and lay it over the top of the duct tape, and then just take a couple pieces of tape and stick it down to it. Now I'm just going to take my knife and very carefully cut along the edges of this image. I'm going to be real careful in the detailed areas, like you can see right here on the sewing machine, along the lettering, just to where I'm not cutting through anything by accident, and you want to keep everything really clean and crisp. One other thing is, if you get to a really detailed area like the needle here, be careful and maybe give yourself a little bit extra room. Like I'm cutting a little to the side of the needle just so it's a little bit wider. That way if there's any bleed over when I get to the bleaching phase of this, it's not going to just erase the needle. So next I'm going to take my fabric, I've got a fat quarter here, and I'm going to, here's the good side, and I'm just going to start peeling my pieces off real careful and putting them down. Because it's just a logo, I'm going to put it right in the center of this fat quarter and we'll see how it looks. When I peel this up, I'm going to start on the top and start peeling from there because I had initially started laying my tape down at the top and went down. So my top layer, or my top piece of tape right here, is underneath this next one. So I want to make sure that I peel off all of the layers and keep them stuck together. On the fine details, or in like if there's any rounded angles, sometimes it's hard to get them cut initially. There we go. Now it's working. So like right here, you can see what I was saying. Because this layer is under this layer, when I pull, it'll just lift it up. Whereas if I was pulling this layer, it would just separate. One thing to keep in mind as well is you obviously need to free this up, but you don't want to yank on it because it'll stretch the tape and then distort your image. There. As you're peeling up your image, the one thing you do not want is for the sticky side of the tape to fold over and touch itself. If you need to work things around or stretch things a little bit, do it. Even if you need to cut your image and then tape it back together when it's on here, go ahead and do that, but just don't let it stick to itself, otherwise you're going to lose your stencil. Like that. Okay. Now, you can see this is kind of a mess, but that separated. There we go. Okay, when you are laying your image out, you want to be able to set it down and stick it to the fabric with the least amount of repositionings as possible. So I'm going to, because I got a straight line here from the bottom of my sewing machine, I'm going to kind of use that as my base and lay that down first. I'm just going to stick it and smooth it out, being really conscious of keeping it straight because the tape will bend as you are manipulating it. Then from there, I'm just going to work one section at a time. Because I have my tape, this bottom piece now laid down and fairly straight, I'm going to use that kind of as my base to judge everything else off of. So now this is down and stuck, it can't move. So I'm just going to work my way up and stick things down just like this. Just working from basically working from whatever is already stuck down and then pushing it out from there. I like how this is looking. I'm going to move to the lettering. When you're doing something really detailed like thin lines or letters, you want to be really careful. It's really easy to stretch the tape or to break it, or for things to get stuck on themselves and you lose the stencil. So I'm just going to really carefully work letter by letter, and this is freehand, so to speak. You could put down a ruler or something and get a straight edge to line things up on. I'm just gonna go for it, and we'll see how it turns out. I'm gonna watch and just make sure I'm not pilling my letters up, but it looks like it's pilling pretty good. Yeah, that right there pilled up, but it's on the part that is doubled over, so I'm not gonna worry about that. I just need the one layer. This is where we'll see how well I did my cuts. You only want to have to move this the least amount possible, so just pay really close attention. There we go. Now that I've got everything stuck down here, I'm just gonna make sure it's all stuck down nice and tight and all my edges are actually laid down, stuck to the fabric. Looks like we're pretty good. Now that the image is stuck really good to the fabric, the next step is to bleach it. For this, you're gonna need a spray bottle and just fill that bottle up with straight bleach and then spray it over the top of the fabric. We're gonna go outside for this portion of this because obviously we don't wanna get the studio all bleached and white spots on everything. So let's head outside. For this step here, I've got my bottle of bleach and I'm going to spray the fabric and then wait for it to start changing color. When it gets to a color that I like, I'm gonna take it and dunk it into a bucket of water to stop the bleach. You don't want it to just like miss the entire thing, so have it be kind of drippy. And we're just gonna go for it. Okay, I'm gonna tighten that up a little bit so it'll mist right there on the letters. And you can see how fast it changes colors. You want to be careful because as it's changing color, the bleach is also eating the fabric. So it's kind of a balance between get it where you want it and not eat a hole in your material. But you have to kind of play it by ear. This is looking pretty good. I think, let me give it a little touch up right there. I think we're good. So now I'm going to take this, I'm going to submerge it fully in the water, and that will deactivate the bleach. I'm going to be real careful not to get any on me. There you have it. It's looking pretty good. From here, go ahead and take your piece, peel all the tape off of it, and hang it up where it can dry. Or if it's a t-shirt or something, go ahead and throw it in the dryer and dry it out. There we go, it's looking pretty good. I'm gonna let this dry out and then we'll see what it looks like when it's finished. Welcome back to the studio. Let me hold this up so you can see it. I mean, check that out. That is pretty cool. Now, there's a couple things I wanna go over just as some final tips and pointers if you decide to do this. One is determine what you're gonna do beforehand and kind of the effect you're going for. This one here, as you can see, it's a little more blurry, a little grungier. It's nice effect. If you want a clear, crisp image, what you need to do is put your spray bottle on a really fine mist setting and just kind of dust the fabric almost with the bleach. Let it sit for a second and then dunk it. Also, if you are holding it up to spray it, then you're going to get some drips, which you can see on this, which is a cool effect, but if it's not what you're going for, lay your item down, mist over the top of it, let it sit, don't move it. You'll get a really crisp, clear image. Actually, I have an example of that I want to show you. This is a t-shirt that I did a couple of years back, and if you look right there, you can see the lines are crisp, the lettering's clear, and it's just a different type of look, but again, it was a really fine mist as opposed to more of a jet stream that gives you these kind of tiger stripes on it. So there's that. Also, when you are spraying, don't saturate your fabric. If you saturate it, it's going to go underneath your stencil and blur your image. Hope you enjoyed this episode. If you make any projects with this technique, please tag us in it. Hashtag Sew Yeah Quilting, hashtag Sew Yeah Brothers. We would love to see what it is you're working on. That's it for this episode. Let's send it back over to my brothers.